So, welcome back to this episode of Words Want Wisdom. I am absolutely delighted to have author Emma Heatherington with me here. So, Emma, you are very, very welcome.
Thank you, Sheila.
Oh, it's just a pleasure to have you. And we are, you. I say we, I was really privileged to be there. You are just fresh off the success of your wonderful book launch just 2 nights ago on the 27th of October. It was an absolutely wonderful event which celebrated your new novel, Every Christmas Eve. And there was a lovely poetic symmetry to that date for you, Emma. You've just celebrated your rebirthday, living with multiple myeloma. And it was also the day that you launched Every Christmas Eve. So the 27th of October has become really a watershed symbolic date filled with emotion and much, much more, I'm sure. So can you tell us a little bit about the co-occurrence of this personal milestone and the professional launch event and what it means to you?
Yeah, so this time last year I was in a very different place, literally.
Yes.
I was in Belfast City Hospital on a ward that seems known to a lot of people, 10 North, where haematology patients go to have different procedures. I was in to have a stem cell transplant following a shock diagnosis earlier in 2024 of a blood cancer called multiple myeloma, which is an incurable blood cancer of the plasma cells, and it attacks your immune system, it attacks your bones, and at the moment there's no cure, but a stem cell transplant, if successful, can give you that extension on a period of, they don't call it remission with this cancer. Some people do say remission, but it's more like where they get it under control for a while because there's no ifs or buts about it. It will come back. So if you can imagine, last year I was just absolutely, in the depths of despair, very, very, very ill, very worried about what the future would hold. I had a book out at the time. My book's come out at the end of October, so it coincided with that book maybe next Christmas being released. And I didn't get to see it on the shelves. I couldn't. By the time I got back on my feet in the new year, the book, being a festive story, was well gone. So this year, I thought the book that I wrote for this year's publication deserved that bit extra celebration. So, I don't normally have an event or a party to celebrate each book coming out because I would have everybody tormented. I don't think I would get, the turnout. But with 2 weeks' notice, which is kind of like what happens in the book, and that was not deliberate. I know it was just so coincidental. 2 weeks' notice, I decided to hold a party here at Ballyscullion Park, where the book was deeply inspired by the book set in Balachi. And at home, I was getting all sorts of reactions. Jim was saying to me, "Are you sure 2 weeks? Is anyone going to turn up?
This?
Can we make this happen?" But I just thought, let's go for it. And I had said to Rosalind Mulholland, the owner of Ballyscullion, could we have the stables room, which is where we are today? And she says, no, I think we're going to need the marquee. And I thought, well, I'm expecting about 50 people. And then some.
And then some. I don't think you got to lift your head on the night.
I didn't.
You were it was nearly like you were writing another novel. You were signing so many books and the turnout was just phenomenal.
It was incredible. It was way beyond my expectations. Like, I was taking RSVPs to gauge numbers, for catering purposes and stuff. And even then, because there was no ticket price. And the way if you don't commit to something like that, something can happen on the day, and you might look out at the weather and say,
I'm not going to go.
I'm not going to go. So we were kind of expecting a wee bit of that too. A wee bit of slippage that, so 222 people, 222 people had signed up, and we were still thinking, right, you could allow maybe for 50, 60 not to bother coming on the night, and changing plans. But no, and if it was so lovely because a couple of people couldn't make it, but they did message me to say so.
Okay.
And then at the same time, another few people on the day messaged to say, look, do you mind if I bring an extra too? So it kind of balanced it out. So I do think we got the full numbers.
Look, my maths isn't good, as anybody who would know me would tell you. But when I came, there was such an atmosphere. There were people everywhere spilling out, and the energy and the celebration, not just of the book, Emma, but the celebration of you. It was one of the most tangible, memorable, emotive experiences that I've enjoyed. And I just can't imagine how you felt on that evening.
Yeah, I think now reflecting on it, it's all, we're 2 days after it now, and it's still kind of sinking in. As you said, like, I never got to lift my head, so I kind of a bit sorry about that, but it was just the way, like, that's what it was there for. I was there to sign books. I would love to have been able to get up and walk around and mingle a wee bit and even just see it from, the audience perspective. But it's more important that, people went away with a signed copy, and that's what they wanted. And I got chatting to so many people who came up and like, it's such a lovely honour really for me, because not only did people want to tell me, they enjoy the books, or, they've seen me before at other events or festivals, but also, their own personal journeys. Now, people, I think it's important to talk about these things if you want. A lot of people decide to keep it private. But, people were coming up to me and they were telling me, but maybe their own experiences with cancer down the years, or a family member maybe going through it at the minute. And like, for people to share that with me, I think that, I'm very privileged and honoured to hear that. So it was just a stunning night from start to finish, and it's going to take a long time to say to
I
get
can
my
see
head
the
right.
smile is still there, and it's great, even just on a personal note for me, to see you smiling like that, and just you've skirted over what the past year has been, understandably. So it's the difference between night and day, the fact that you were sitting there on that night a year down the line. So amazingly decked out, can I just say? Your dress and your shoes. I had them eyed up. I was like, I need to speak to Emma to see where she got this.
I'm so glad you saw the shoes, because again, they were hidden under that table.
They were. I was like, we'll have a chat after this, Emma. We will. So tell me, Emma, how did you manage then, against that backdrop, to write something that is so festive, so filled with hope, so filled with this whole idea of second chances during the rigors of your treatment?
Yeah, sometimes, like you say, like the last year, sometimes it's a bit of a blur, the day in, day out suffering, I suppose you could say, of not only me personally, but also my family, who have to watch and have to, the dynamics of our household changed. And the mummy's not
Absolutely
there. The whole thing changes. And I spent a lot of time in bed. I wasn't able to walk down the stairs. I wasn't able to, get washed myself. I wasn't able to cook, obviously. I wasn't able to do, and you start to miss the really simple things. It's so strange. Like, I used to grumble about going to do my grocery shopping every week. And when simple tasks like that, again, as a mother, are taken away from you, you realise how much the simple things are really the most important things in life. So I had a lot of time alone in my head to think about, life in general. And then on the good days, you can imagine going from that, and the nausea and the fatigue and the hair loss and the bloating of your whole body, and you look so pale and the dark eyes and just totally unrecognisable in the mirror, and the pain of watching your family watch you like that.
Yeah.
To go from that to stepping into this absolutely different parallel world of romance and festivities and coziness and creating characters that I could take anywhere I wanted. It was like an escape, total escape for me, and I just looked forward to that. And on the days where I couldn't do it, I would think about it.
Okay.
And on the days I could lift up the laptop and sit up in the bed and tap away, it just, for my own mental health, I think that was my saviour.
Yeah.
And look, I mean, my publishers were excellent, and my agent is excellent, and they were saying to me, if you can't do this, we'll take a year out, and we'll pick up again. But it was the one thing that I was determined this illness wasn't going to take away from me. And it was my absolute pleasure to step into that world. And it's so you can imagine what it's like now, seeing it out there and getting to see it myself.
I think I can imagine. And just as you're talking there, it was that one thing that you had to kind of hold on to, and that was your lifeline, your connection with who you are.
Yes, exactly.
Not who you were.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's a really important distinction there.
Yes, yes, that's it in a nutshell. You know, that my whole appearance was changing. I felt so ill, and even people's reaction to you changes, you know, too, because you become the person
Yeah.
with this illness.
Yeah.
And I wanted to remember who I was, or that part of me that I was quite determined just to not let that go.
Yeah. And that, I think, you know, it's something there. That determination is evident. You know, you can physically hold on to it, and others
Exactly.
can in the book Every Christmas Eve. So let's get stuck in
Yeah.
and talk about it. This is, now I have to say, I loved it. Absolutely love it. So let's talk about it. Every Christmas Eve, it is faultless, it is flawless, it is festive, it is everything that you want from a Christmas novel and more. So just let me get that off my chest.
Thank you.
And on a personal note, I have said that it is set in Balahi and that the characters are Balahi, are from Balahi as well. You know, I fell in love with a Balahi man. I fell in love with Balahi as a village. And so really seeing the village through the lens of your storytelling really made me fall in love with all of those locations and take a little walk down memory lane personally myself. And it has been one of the most enriching experiences of my life as a reader. And I'm not saying that in an insincere way. It is absolutely wonderful. And it really showed me the gift and the talent that, you know, you have as an author, because it would have been very easy for me having that experience saying, that's not true, that's not believable, you know. It would have been very easy for me not to suspend reality, but I didn't even need to go down that route. So why did you choose Balahi as the setting of all the places in the world?
Yeah, well, first of all, that's a huge compliment to hear that from someone who knows the village and who lives here, and who can walk down memory lane, because it's quite nerve-wracking when I choose a place. Obviously you have to allow for a bit of creative license.
Yes.
Yeah. So you might read something and go, well, he or she couldn't get from there to there in that space of time. So you have to kind of, you say, suspend, you know, that reality. But why Balahi? I have said the last two festive novels were very much set in Donegal. Maybe Next Christmas had some London in it as well. I have a great love of Donegal. I think anyone who follows my stories will know that. But I deliberately wanted to step out of that, you know, cottage by the sea setting.
Yes.
And it would have been very easy to slip back into that again because it works and I enjoy it. And that's where I love to go. But it was when I was speaking to Rosalind Mulholland from Ballyscullion Park about the Ballyscullion Book Festival, the very first book festival in 2024. And it was just before my diagnosis.
Okay.
So I did know of Balahi, obviously. You know, I've spoken at quite a few events at the Haney Home Place and really enjoyed them. And that's what I thought of Balahi. When I thought of Balahi, I think of Seamus Haney and that lovely new venue and places like that. But Ballyscullion Park came into our lives when my brother and his wife got married here in 2021. And then I was back for the book festival launch. So I came over here, and when you come into a beautiful wedding here, you know, obviously you're seeing it in a very different way, but I saw the house and met the family, and I took a wee walk around the grounds. It was about February time. It was a lovely day, and I looked around the grounds and I just thought, like, this all didn't appear out of nowhere. You know, the beautiful big marquee and the courtyard and the lovely accommodation that they have now, but what was here before? And my mind just started wandering, and then I just thought, gosh, this would be a fabulous place. And when I'm starting to get ideas, it starts with just a seed, if you like, and that was the seed planted. So I said to Rosalind that day, gosh, you know, I'm starting to get ideas here for a story, but I didn't want to obviously overly promise or say I'm going to write a book about Ballyscullion or Balahi. So I took my time and went away and thought about it. And by the time the book festival was on, I was diagnosed with this horrendous illness, and my future was looking very bleak. But I managed to come and speak at the festival. Quite out of breath, mind you, if I can recall, but I got through it. And by then, the characters of Ben Heaney and Lou Doherty were really coming to life in my head. Now, obviously, the story is set in the village as much as it's set in the house. So I had to get to know the area a bit better. And again, that was such a fantastic escape for me. You know, you can imagine Nick going from this, because I had 6 months of induction chemotherapy before the stem cell transplant, and like that knocked me off my feet totally as well. But to be able to come down, you know, like Jim had said to me, we'll go for a wee spin today to get you out of the house.
Yeah.
Where would you like to go? And I said one day, I'd love to go to Balahi. And he was like, right, okay.
Random. Of all the destinations in the world.
But when we came down, you know, we went down by Lochbeg and we walked through the wee forest and we saw Church Island, and it just became more and more magical to me. And then I would read a lot of Seamus Heaney's work because, well, I always did and always loved his work. But everything just started to click into place and make sense. And then the idea of the two different worlds, you know, the girl who lives in the village, who goes to a local school, who, you know, whose family have lived there all their lives too, but they don't really know this family who live in the house. They know who they are.
They know of them.
But their two worlds don't often meet, except for on Christmas Eve. Yeah. When the Heaney family, as I called them, as a nod to the man himself, of course, Ben Heaney's family throw open their doors of this magnificent home of theirs every Christmas Eve, and they have a party. And it's when Lou Doherty she's of an age where she's allowed to go to the party for the first time. And her and Ben have this lovely first encounter that sparks off a relationship that will span so many years. And then when we meet them in the book, it's about 20 years later, and their lives have completely taken different directions. But Ben's family have decided to bring this party back, and Lou's back in town, and their paths are going to cross again to bring it together in 2 weeks. So Balahi became a character in itself.
It did, yeah.
And the more I got to know it, and the more I got to know the people, it just became a complete delight. And then I discovered Katie's Cottage.
Oh, the iconic Katie's Cottage. Yes, it's a landmark.
It really is. And that was purely accidental as well, because, like I said again, I love writing about cottages in Donegal by the sea. And I totally abandoned that idea, and I was writing about the big house and the village life. But then I came across Katie's Cottage, and I was like, right, now this has got to be in the story. So I contacted Mary, who owns the cottage.
Yeah.
And she took me down and showed me around it, and like the rest is history.
The rest is in the book.
It's in the book, yeah, it's in the book. So that's where Lou lives in the story.
It just, you know, and that's what I mean. Like, and all of those iconic landmarks in Balahi have written in, even like Ballascullion House, where we're at today, where the Heaney family live, you know, and it's so regal. And then you have Katie's Cottage, and you know, I really loved the way you brought in, because you have history, you have culture, you have community, all written in there, even in the way that you brought Doc's Bar into it, and the tap house, and you know, I could think, well, I've eaten in there, you know, I go down there, you know, and I have my lovely dinner, and you know, all of those things. And that's what I mean about the authenticity of it. You captured really what the very essence of the place in the novel there. And I thought, my goodness me, this is phenomenal. It's the first time I've ever read a book where I felt like I was immersed in it, that I was living it. It was absolutely wonderful.
I think that's the joy I've discovered of using real places. In my very, very early books, I'll tell you a funny story, but I would have changed the name of a place, but I had a place in my head, but I was really afraid to just name it. So I would change the name, but I would keep it in my head when I was writing it. And like, I was starting out, I wrote my first book when I was 30. My daughter's coming 30 in March, so I now realise how young that is. At the time, you think you're, 30's old.
I think I'm 18 in here. It's only when I look in the mirror that I realise I'm not.
Exactly. So I was coming, it's like your first anything.
Yeah.
So I changed the name of the place. But in my head, I had this fishing village in Donegal, and in my head, I knew where that was. So the book came out, and I was sitting in the car one day, one lunchtime. I was still working full time back then for the local council, and I was sitting in the car, and it was a really rainy day, and I was sitting in Dungannon Market Square on my lunch break, and I got this like frantic knock on the car window, and I thought I'd done something wrong, or it was a traffic warden or something. So, but it was this girl with her hood up, and I put down the window, and she said, "Can you please just settle a really big debate we're having in work?" And I was like, "Whoa." What is it? Why me? And she said, "Is your book crazy for you? Is it based in Killybegs?" And I was like, "Yes." And she goes, "Thanks a million, I was right." And away she went.
She probably won a tenner or something, there was a bet going on there.
And I'll never forget that. And I often wonder, why did it not just call it Killybegs? So as I have, I suppose, grown as a writer and matured as a writer, I have been brave enough to name places as real places. And that has paid off in so many ways because, as you said, first of all, if you're familiar with it as a reader, you can picture it. But also, if you're not familiar with it, you can actually go to the place
and visit.
And the place. And I spoke at an event in Dromore a few months ago, and there were people in the audience who were saying that they were doing like book trails from my stories.
Oh my goodness!
I know. So they were going to check out like places like Slave League Cliffs, and they were there were Fanad Lighthouse, places that they'd never been but they'd heard of maybe, but they were now deliberately going. So who knows? Maybe some people will come and check out these lovely places in Balahi as well.
That's the power of literature, and that's the power of a really good story, that you want to go and explore those settings and to see those places, to meet those people, and I think that. That's what you have captured. That's what you always capture. But for me, this one has a special place in my heart because of the setting. And as you say, Balahi really did function as a character in the backdrop. And you've mentioned Ben and Lou, who are our love interests there, and how they're nearly from their very different worlds. And without giving anything away, I just want to say how I love the fact that you didn't go into that, okay, they were in love and then they came back again and it was all happily ever after. You allowed their story and their reunion you gave it time to play out. And I thought, it was just wonderful. It was so believable. And the fact that they were, and I think you actually say that as well, that yes, they still have this amazing connection, but they are very different people with 20 years of life experience in between them when they eventually come together. And so it was like nearly a relationship of two halves. And you set up the first half, and then we as a reader enjoyed journeying with them throughout the second half of their relationship, and I loved that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the good things about writing maybe not old but older, love interests. Ben and Lou are in their late 30s. Lou has a daughter who's 20, so they're about 38, 39 years old, and most people when they come to that age, they have a bit of water under the bridge, I suppose you could say, life lessons learned, mistakes made. So to make the characters real, they don't really know each other when they meet again. They realise that yes, we had this fantastic love when we were young, but who are we now? And to allow them that space to get to know each other, and that they aren't just gonna like fall madly in love because they're two different people, like you say. So I enjoy putting layers into my characters. Some people when they hear a festive romance, they might think of, maybe like your cheesy Christmas movies that we all love to escape to too. Don't get me wrong.
I've already started them.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to getting stuck into them too. But I love to take some elements of, real life grit. And even around the theme of Christmas itself. Christmas is marketed as the most wonderful time of the year. But it's not always the most wonderful time of the year. And there will be people listening to this now who are not looking forward to Christmas for several reasons. In the same way maybe they did before. And every Christmas, when you think about it, brings so much difference. Like even my Christmas this year is going going to be different than it was last year. Last year's Christmas was very different to the Christmas before.
I can imagine.
So I like to acknowledge that in my stories, that while Christmas is, you know, it's something that we all want to enjoy, there are times when it's very, very hard on families and it's not going to be a nice time. But how can we make it a wee tiny bit better? Or how can we put up a front for the children? Or how can we, you know, invite somebody around who maybe is on their own? Or, you know, I've explored so many themes in these Christmas stories that it makes it, hopefully, not just your light and fluffy Christmas story that you can put down and forget about.
Absolutely.
And that you want to think about it, you know, for a wee while.
And I'm not going to say very much because I don't want to spoil it for anybody who is reading. But there was one thing in particular that I thought you dealt with so beautifully. And it actually did make me take a little breath and I paused and then I reread it. And I'm rereading this now for the third time, if I haven't said that. And it was so wonderfully done and really gave food for thought. And it was when Eva was found.
Yes.
And Lou, they're walking back up the boardwalk. And it's that moment with the swans and that whole explanation about how you can begin to recover and not move on, but kind of make room for love and all of those things in your life. And I really thought that is what, like, your novel has depth. It's not a cheese fest.
No.
But it's something that is so moving. And I think that's why it's resonated in so many different ways. And for me, that was one of the most memorable aspects of that text. It really is just wonderful.
Well, that means a lot to hear that, because again, I try to make people or make readers feel something. And I always say to someone who's maybe writing their first novel or who wants to write a novel, if it doesn't make you feel something, you're not going to remember it. And it's like going to watch a movie in the cinema and if somebody says to you, was it, or a play in the theatre, was it any good? It was okay. So I never want that level of, it was okay. I want them to say, like, it's not going to be for everyone. Of course, we all have different tastes, but I would like, to say either it made me pause, like you said, or it made me shed a wee tear, or it made me laugh, or maybe smile, or maybe think of someone, or think, like, I got a lovely message from a reader yesterday saying that she can relate so much to Lou's life that it was nearly like reading about her own. I mean, like, that's the biggest compliment a writer can have. Or another lady who said, she shed a tear, she just finished it. And the fact that people take the time to, to take the time to message me, to look me up and message me to tell me that, like, that is such a pleasure for me to read. And I'm always working on the next book when I'm writing, when one's launched. So it gives you that spur on, to write, okay, can I do this again?
Yeah.
And it reminds me that, there are people who are enjoying the stories and there are people who are getting something from them. But I do admit I kind of deliberately do try and get that emotion into every story that I write. I remember an editor I worked with back when I was writing The Legacy of Lucy Hart, Emily. She was fabulous. And I remember, delivering the story, and I thought it was A1 finished. When it's like a baby and you're just so attached to it.
Your baby.
And you're
perfect.
Sending it out to this, and I was just with this new publisher at the time. And she came back and she said, okay, now we're loving this. We're loving the whole idea. We love the characters. We love the concept. We love the story. We've just a wee bit of work to do. And I was like, oh gosh, really? But she really, I suppose, squeezed every single drop of blood, sweat and tears that I had onto that page. She kept sending me, no, I need more. And she didn't, editors never tell you what to write or how to write. They just say what it needs. Yeah. So I need more emotion. And I was like, I'm nearly drained at this stage. But she would say, no, come on, you can give it another stab. By the time I delivered the final version of that story, she emailed me, and I often say I would love to print out the email and like put it in a frame, because she just wrote, she says, you've got me. I'm in absolute buckets here, tears, absolutely brilliant, you've nailed it, kind of thing. And I never forget that
I've
feeling.
just got goosebumps from you saying that there.
It
You
was
know,
just
I can just imagine.
a
Yeah.
moment, you know, I was like, oh, wow. And then, you know, when the book went out, a particular book brought me to so much, so many new readers internationally, and it was like a big gear
Yeah.
shift in my career as a writer. So I knew I'd found my niche. I knew I'd got, you know, this is where the magic comes in here, and this is where readers are going to hopefully buy the next book because it made them feel that way, or it reminded them, like I say, of a time of their own life. So I do try and pour as much emotion, and of course there's lighter sides of every story too. You know, there's characters like Uncle Eric, and there's, you know, and Aunt Nora in last year's book, Maybe Next Christmas, who people come to me and say, oh, I loved those characters, and they give a bit of light relief as well.
I absolutely, you know, I'm so glad that you mentioned Uncle Eric. And because your minor characters are so rich as well. It's not that, you know, Uncle Eric and the schoolmaster, Master
Yes.
Campbell, they, within the first, I think it was within the first page of Lou now, schoolmaster Master Campbell
yeah.
was introduced. And that, from the minute I read that, I was like, oh my God, we are onto something here, because it made me laugh and cry
Yes.
for so many reasons. And it was when you mentioned his diction, you know, and I have it written down here because so when you described his diction, whatever he had said to Lou in Bud and Beans, his words holding the weight of time in every syllable. Well, that made me laugh because as a school teacher, I am very, you know, I like diction.
Yes.
And in this part of the world, diction is not a big thing. And I'm saying that from experience because my husband tends to blend his syllables together. And whenever we go anywhere, nobody knows what he's saying. And so, you know, on a personal level, that really helped me to step into the balahi, as you had captured there. And then Uncle Eric. Uncle Eric made me laugh in so many, many ways because he is such, I think everybody either has an Uncle Eric or is destined to become Uncle Eric at some stage in their life, because I myself have lamented the loss of analog television.
Oh, yes.
It took me a long time to get onto the digital. And even now, it's ropey enough, so I could relate to him.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, that there was an aspect, didn't matter the age of the character or the gender of the character, there was something there that I think everybody could relate to, either within their own family or within themselves.
Yeah.
And that was, you know, right across the board. And then you had Nana Molly as well. And, you know, that story, is there a sequel coming out about Uncle Eric and Nana Molly? I'm like, what was their story and how are they going to come out? You know, it was just so rich. And again, I think that is testament to your gift as an author. And do you think that that's something, Emma, that in order to be a successful author that you need is to be able to have that good, deep, rich insight into the fundamentals of humanity and, you know, the different kind of characteristics that characters have and that people have?
Yes, I think there has to be an element of curiosity to make you a good writer. I always, before I was sick, I coached a lot of people in creative writing. Hopefully someday I'll get back to that. And one of my biggest tips would be, you know, to turn your senses up to the max. You know, so when you're even in the most mundane, like in a doctor's surgery or waiting for a train or waiting on the bus or a school run or something, you know, really turn your senses up. You know, think of the sounds you're hearing. Think of the way people interact in different situations.
Yeah.
The test of a character, I always say too, is, you know, if you imagine someone you know and they broke down on a rainy day, how would they react? You know, would they kick the tires and start shouting and screaming and it was everybody's fault, only their own?
Yeah.
Or would they be very calm and ring for help, or would they tackle it, you know, maybe to change the tire or something if happened, you know, or the practical and, you know, we're going to sort this out, and independent, or the panicky, and, you know, so putting ordinary people in different situations to test them out helps build characters. I'm going to end up giving you a creative writing lesson.
Yeah, and I will take it. I can tell you, I'm loving
That's
it.
a whole new podcast.
I need to come into my classroom. My pupils are going to be going, Miss, you're not doing this right at all.
No, I absolutely love that, and I say hopefully I'll get back to that someday. But yeah, so turn your senses up. You could call it nosiness. I love people watching.
Yeah, so do I, with a coffee
somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Just in my element. And again, when I was like in the early days of sickness, and I was maybe been sent to A&E quite a few times before we got to the bottom of what was going on, I was always accompanied. Like, Jim always came with me and would sit for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And I'll never forget this one time. I just said, "Look, I'll sit it out myself. Go you home. Keep everything going there. I'll sit here myself." And my eldest daughter messaged me and she says, "Oh, Mummy, are you okay? You're sitting down there, on your own and you're waiting to be seen and it's going to take ages." I'm in my element. I am in my element. I am looking around me and I'm wondering what this one's in for and what that one's in for.
You're writing a backstory for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And, something like that, say the most ordinary everyday life experiences can spark off. Like coming to Ballyscullion Park for the launch of a festival, I didn't foresee that was going to start, me thinking about a new story. So it's letting your imagination totally flow, and then what, and then what, and then what, and then all of a sudden, you've got the bones of a story, and then the characters, if they're good, strong characters, they'll start to just come to life themselves. And like characters like Uncle Eric or Aunt Nora in Maybe Next Christmas, which was out last year, they nearly wrote themselves. They become so real to me. And another sign that I like to get that I'm on the right track is if I find myself thinking about the characters when I'm not sitting at the laptop, as if they are kind of real people, or even missing them sometimes. Like, that can happen, that you think, and when I send the book off to the publisher, say the first draft, a lot of the times then it'll come back and then there'll be a few notes and then you readjust and then you send it back and then it might come back again. And a lot of the times when you're writing, it can be quite tiresome. You think, I have to go back over this all again. But again, a sign that it's not, or that it's going in the right direction is when you can't wait to get it back. Yeah. And like I could not wait to get back into Balahi and get back into these to Ben and Lou and Buds and Beans and Ballyheeney House and back into the party. Yeah. I just could not wait to get back into that.
I think we need a Christmas Eve party.
Yes.
We need to start that in Balahi. I'm going to be head of that committee going forward.
Yes.
Now, I don't know about you, but when I was reading this, when you were writing it, and when I'm reading it, it plays out to my mind like the most perfect Christmas movie. It just read, it was flawless. And I said that at the very beginning. So when you were writing it, did you ever think about who might play Ben and Lou if it ever was kind of transformed from the page to the stage, so to speak? Because I know I have.
Okay, I'd love to hear what you think.
Okay, right. So in my head, now I'm actually really nervous about saying this to you now. I'm going to tell you who I envisaged you writing.
You're the casting director for today, okay.
Well, I'll take that. I imagined James Nesbitt as Ben Heaney. The whole way through that, I'm thinking, oh my God, who would be able to kind of fill that kind of, presence, physique, that kind of charming demeanour as well. And I'm thinking, right, Jimmy Nesbitt, who would we play Lou Doherty? Now, I know that you said Lou's maybe about 39, and I have about 10 years plus VAT on her. But in my head, Lou Doherty, look no further. So me and James Nesbitt essentially would be leading the way. Emma.
All we need now is someone to finance this. So anyone out there who would like to make a movie about Balahi, like it's just sitting there. We've got it cast and everything.
Are you happy enough?
I'm delighted with that.
Okay,
yeah, I'm delighted we can run with that. Absolutely. Okay. Now I wasn't thinking James Nesbitt myself, but I'm a huge fan.
Okay.
I'm a huge fan. So I am very happy with that.
Okay.
Very happy. I don't think, when I'm writing the stories, I don't think I deliberately think of actors as I'm writing them. And I know that some writers do, and that helps them visualise the characters. I I love to hear how other people say
envisage,
it.
yeah.
So I'm really happy. So all we need to say is someone to come in, put the money on the table, and we'll make a movie about Balahi. I'm up for that.
James, we want you. And that's enough.
Absolutely.
We'll just say it there.
We'll start with that. We'll start with that. Can I say, but just now that you're on that track, Uncle Eric, I think Ian McElhinney would be fabulous, wouldn't he?
Oh my God! Yes.
So there's another one. So like, I mean, it's
We're
just
casting this
casting
left, right, and
itself.
centre.
Exactly. All we need is the money, and we can run with it.
Yeah, like all the locations and the settings are
Exactly,
here. You
yeah.
know, there's nothing else needs done.
Yeah, but just need to talk to Northern Ireland Screen, and they say some production companies to come in and finance it, and we've got a movie set in Balahi. I think the world needs it.
The world needs it. It does. It needs more of Balahi, more of Ballahini, Ballyscullion, more Ben and Lou, aka James and Sheila, and we'll go from there. All good. So we've talked about every Christmas Eve, and definitely as a writer, and I'm not a writer, but I'm saying for you as a writer, the creative juices are always flowing.
Yeah.
I'm very much getting that. So am I right in thinking that you've already started thinking about next year's Christmas festive novel? And if that's true, can you give us a few wee breadcrumbs to keep us going?
Yes, well, I can give you a bit of an exclusive because I haven't actually talked about this before publicly yet. Not only have I thought about it, but we're actually now working on the cover. And I'm about a third of the way through it.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to try and push through for a first draft before Christmas. So it's going to be called Together for Christmas. Now that's hot off the press.
Wow.
No one else knows that yet.
Words want wisdom. You heard it here first.
So Together for Christmas. And now let me see what I can tell. It's the setting of this story is there's a few places. So, and I'm still playing around with this, okay? But there's a definite setting of Ashford Castle in Cong, County Mayo.
Not too shabby.
Not too shabby at all.
Shabby.
And what a lovely excuse to go to it and check it out. So I'm
Road
hoping
trip.
to do that soon, yeah. So Ashford Castle is in Cong in County Mayo. Cong is known as the location of the Quiet Man movie.
Yeah.
So I'm doing wee parallels and with that. I'm kind of in first draft stage, so I'm getting to know the characters, I'm getting to know the locations. Declan, who's the main man, he lives in the lakes of Fermanagh in a beautiful lake house. I want this lake house. It's all in my head at the minute, and I love that. He's got a son. Declan and his son are kind of accidental travel influencers. So they've got this great comedy duo act together that they say accidentally on a trip to Rome, they shared a video, it went viral, and now they kind of do this. So they're always invited nice places. On the other side, you have Cora Mallon, and Cora is a travel PR. So she's always trying to get people like Declan and his son, who's called Callum, to come and try out this for her clients. Okay. So she's arranging this trip to Ashford Castle. And but of course, it's not just as straightforward as that. So there are layers and layers and layers of the stories and the characters. So when we first meet Cora, it's the day that she was meant to get married. And she's looking at her wedding dress hanging up, and the rain is lashing outside. It's late November. Okay. And she is kind of at this watershed moment of her life. Am I going to let this break me, or am I going to look at it as the fresh start that, and then you have her family who again are all starting to come to life, these minor characters, like you said, they're all starting to spring up. She's got a sister called Sinead. She's got her parents who are, springing to life off the page, especially her daddy, Joe. Yeah. So they're going to head off to Ashford Castle for this press trip, and she's going to run into Declan. Declan is on a dating ban. He's not allowed to date anyone for a year. And his year is going to be up on Boxing Day. So can he and Cora stay apart until Boxing Day, or will they be together for Christmas?
I don't think I can wait until this time next year. I definitely don't. Already I am going to be, look, you've hooked me.
That's
just
great.
From the first draft, so I cannot wait to get my teeth stuck into
Great,
that.
I haven't told anybody about that yet, so that is an exclusive.
That's definitely an exclusive for Words Want Wisdom today. So thank you. Emma, if there was ever a phrase to describe you, your attitude, it's carpe diem, given everything. And even that falls short of the mark for everything that you have done, everything that you have dealt with and are continuing to deal with. And I say that given the fact that you are in the middle of writing next year's festive release. But is it true that you are also in the middle of writing or working on Ireland's first contemporary country musical?
Yes.
And if it is true, can you tell us anything about that?
I would love to tell you. Now, this is where I will really come to life, because this is a passion project. Okay. So, it's something that I've been working on in my head for about 8 years, and it has developed and developed and developed, and I'm really happy where it is now. Like, I'm really excited about this. So I'm a huge country music fan. Like, I grew up listening to artists like Nancy Griffith and Vince Gill and Trisha Yearwood and the whole Garth Brooks fame, in his earlier career. And now I'm a huge fan of people like Keith Urban and the Dixie the Chicks, as they're called now. I could go on and on and on about all the artists I love. And then back in 2017, I was asked to write Ireland's Queen of Country Music, Philomena Begley's autobiography, as her ghostwriter or collaborator, as it's now known. And that was just magical. Like, I mean, Philomena is a neighbour of ours. I've known her all my life. And to be able to put pen to paper and help her write her amazing story of how she, a very ordinary girl from Pomeroy, ended up on the Grand Ole Opry stage in Nashville. Like, what a story. Magnificent.
You're going from sublime to ridiculous in one fell swoop there. Yeah,
and it's very real. And so by working with Philomena, I got to see a lot of, what does it take to make a star? And then a year later, and also, should I say, balancing motherhood and family life and all the realities that come in with, you're not just that country star, you are, all the other roles, a mother and a wife and all the rest. And then the following year, I was asked to write Nathan Carter's autobiography. And Nathan obviously was much younger, on the cusp of his fame, or the height of his fame, maybe you could say, traveling around on tour buses, filling out these venues, the energy it takes,
Did you get to go on a tour bus?
I did. Yes, I did.
You're living out one of my dreams. Oh my goodness.
Oh, same here. It's like a music fan. Can you imagine? Like,
my God.
traveling. I'm with the band. All I needed was a t-shirt.
I always I have the t-shirt and have no band. That's my problem. We are huge rock fans. And it's Bon Jovi, Def Leppard, Nickelback, all of those
I am
things.
too. Yeah, I am too. Yeah, Bon Jovi tickets out now. Like,
we have ours.
Can't wait. Yeah, cannot wait. And Def Leppard.
We have ours as well.
I have mine. And my cousin's the guitar player in Def Leppard.
Are you here? No way.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That is serendipitous.
Vivian Campbell is my his mum, and my dad are brother and sister. So we are with the band that night.
Here I am with the band now.
But anyway, back to country. Country Girl. Country Girl is the name of the show. So this glimpse, I suppose, into that world sparked an idea. And again, the seed was planted, and I've been churning it over. And then last year it was meant to happen, and obviously that didn't happen. And I was genuinely brokenhearted.
Yeah.
I had to call that off. I was, in the I suppose at the stage of developing the script, starting to build a bit of a team around me, starting to think of who I'm going to cast for each part, and it didn't happen. So I had to park it. But this year I got back to it, and hindsight's a wonderful thing, because it's 10 times better than what it was, in my original version.
Yeah.
The characters have, again, sprung to life. It's about a girl called Rosie Ryan, and Rosie has inherited this rural Irish pub from her grandmother. She grew up in it, so it's not like just landed on top of her head. She grew up in this pub. She lived above the pub. Her mother ran the pub. Her grandmother ran the pub. As a little girl, she ran around. She knew all the characters and she knew all the things. But Rosie went to Australia, and then when her grandmother died, she's back. Her mother, she lost her mother when she was very young, so her grandmother kind of brought her up. So she's back with this pub, and she's pledged to the locals she'll give it a year. And then she's going to go back to Australia, and she's going to do what her granny asked her to do. Keep it open for a while, see how it goes. But her heart is very much in the place, and she is torn. Should I leave it, or should I try and bring it back to this lively music hub that it used to be. It's a bit dead, but once she gets it. There's a few locals, again, these minor characters. You can imagine, sitting at the bar, who just adore her and they don't want her to go back to Australia. So that's her world. And then we have the world of Luke Adams, who's this hotshot country music
Rosie
star.
Ryan and Luke Adams. I am,
fully invested already.
Yeah.
He is your your Keith Urban, Riley Green type heartthrob country star. He is Irish, but he lives in Nashville.
Okay.
And he comes back to Ireland to do this gig. Rosie's not able to go because she's working in the pub. And anyway, he's not too far away from her, and in his world somebody says that, he wants to get off the beaten track, he wants to go for a quiet drink. He's had a lot of heartache, he's grieving the loss of his girlfriend in an accident a few years ago. He's very lost, he's very troubled, and he's not the glossy star that we see on the stage. His management are pushing him into keep going. He's on the edge of burnout, and I think that theme has really grown as I've been writing it. When you look at the music world at the minute, there's a lot of young stars who are being treated so badly, and they are burning out, and they're just been used as puppets. So if you imagine that's kind of the stage he's at in his career, and he wants a break and he needs a break, he goes into this tiny little pub one night as she's singing Blanket on the Ground, as she's cleaning up to herself, and she looks around and there he is. So again, it's a bit like Ben and Lou's worlds. These two worlds, completely different, they collide. But what are they going to do? He's gone back on the road as this big superstar, and she's in this, well, I won't, I go back to Australia mode. And we follow then their love story and how they're going to make it work. So it's like my novels. There's going to be tears, there's going to be laughter, but it's set to this backdrop of original country music.
And do you write the music as well, or
I've all the lyrics written?
Okay.
Yeah, so I've written all the lyrics, and I'm very fortunate that Jim, my fiance, is a singer-songwriter. Wow. We have written stuff together before. We wrote a children's musical a few years ago, which I would love to resurrect again too. And it's a matter of him sitting with the guitar, me with the words, and between us, we'll work out a melody. And then, so that's the stage we're at with the music at the minute, and then we're going to take it to production and give it that big country sound. I do have dates booked for the musical.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm announcing this probably for the first time. So I've booked Armagh Marketplace Theatre for November 2026. We're going to open the show on the 11th of November, so 11/11. 2026, an easy date to remember.
Love the symmetry.
Yeah, but the tickets will be on sale this November, so I'll be announcing all the details very soon.
The tickets are going on sale.
They're going to go to sale a year in advance.
Wow.
A year in advance. We've only got 4 shows, right? So we've only got. I think it opens on the Wednesday night, and we've got to the Saturday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yeah, 4 nights. So I would urge everybody to get their tickets pretty quickly.
I'm like, I need the details, because I am getting tickets. Like that's another road trip. Absolutely.
Yeah. And again, it'll bring people to Armagh. Now that's going to be the premiere, the launch, if you like, the showcase of it. And it's a case I hope that people think I want to be at the first, first round of this. Hopefully it's successful enough that, the plan is then to take it on the road. But for the moment, I'm focusing on the Armagh Marketplace nights, and I hope to fill them, and I hope that people get excited about it. It's going to be a type of show where there's a bit of interact. It's not interactive, as in they're not going to be speaking to the audience. But when he's performing as Luke Adams, you'll believe you're at his concert. Yeah. So I would urge everybody to dress up in their country gear, make a night
hats,
of it, get the girls together, and it's going to be just a vibe, and we're going to, have you leaving the show like dancing, and it's going to be uplifting. I say it's going to be sad in places, happy in places, but it's going to be a love story that really hits you in the heart. So I cannot wait. So you can imagine the real life casting is going to start soon. So again, we're looking for the country boy, we're looking for the country girl, Luke and Rosie. Aww. I do have ideas who I want. I do I've spoken to a few people about it. Yeah. But I mean, we have a year to do this, so anyone out there who believes it.
I am just in awe. I really am. And again, I'm hooked and invested. And I am going to be there with cowboy hat and cowboy boots on. Absolutely. So my goodness, carpe diem, doesn't even cover it where you're concerned, Emma, honestly. Really
I like
doesn't.
to push the boundaries. Like, I mean, I don't know what my health's going to bring in the next year, and that's another story. But, you know, if I have this packaged and ready to go, I'm lucky enough to have, like say, built that creative team around me where if I'm not well enough to get into the nuts and bolts of the daily production of this, I can hand it over to, you know, some of the people I've got around me to do that. And I'm very lucky, you know, to do
Well,
that.
God willing, everything
Yeah.
you will be there
With my cowboy
with
hat
your
on.
cowboy hat and boots and all the rest
Yes.
on, seeing it brought to life as it should be. And I know that you, if you decide some morning that you wake up and that your writing career, oh, I'm so tired of that. I do know that you have potentially another career as a fortune teller, or you might give Mystic Meg a run for her money. I think this is wonderful. Can you share with us what I'm alluding to?
Yeah, there's a bit of, I suppose, magic to the last 3 books that I've written, where things that I've kind of thought of then turned out to be reality in the strangest ways. And it's all around names. So I'll just run through it quickly. The first book I opened out, which was called This Christmas, the one that's based at Fanet Lighthouse, I opened out on Facebook and I said, you know, anybody got any names of a real life couple, I would love to feature them. So all these beautiful couples' names were being suggested. I ended up picking Charlie and Rose. I just loved the sound of the 2 names and we ran with that. Then it was based in a college in Donegal, as I mentioned before, and I came across this beautiful cottage in Stewartstown, County Tyrone, called Rose Hill. The rose is in there already. But when I was there, we used to do it, hopefully bring it back as well, Poems and Paintings Weekend, where you go and you stay in this cottage and you paint with Jim, because he's an artist, as well as a singer-songwriter, and you write with me. And with music and crack and all that. But the owner of the cottage said to me, gosh, did you name your characters after my parents? And I said, I don't even know what your parents are called. And he said, they're called Charlie and Rose. And I was like,
oh, okay.
Wow, what? You know, so that was that book. So the next year I was writing maybe next Christmas, and the characters' names, I remember where I was sitting on the sofa in my living room and the characters' names just like fell literally into my head, Bea and Ollie. And the name Bea, of course, is short for Beatrice or Bea. Some people pronounce it as, but I don't know anyone with that name. And I don't know why they came together. The Bea in the story works in a 5-star hotel in London. I went to London to explore and find the magnificent Milestone Hotel in Kensington. Wow, is all I can say. Wow. I stayed there, you know, for research purposes, as you do.
It's a hard life.
So tough. That was my locations for Bea to work in. So on the way out, checkout time, there's this beautiful black and white cookbook on the reception counter, and I asked, you know, do you mind if I have a look? No, not at all. Looked at the lady, gorgeous 1950s style photograph of her on the cover, and I looked at her name, and her name is Bea Tolman. And I said to the concierge, who's this lady? And he said, oh, she's the owner of the hotel.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, what? So 3rd time this book is in the mix, you know, every Christmas Eve, and I've got the inspiration here. And, you know, I'd only just met the Mulholland family, and it was all about the book festival. Like I only knew Rosalind. I didn't know anything else about the family. And again, I remember exactly where I was in the house. I was getting up out of bed one morning, and I thought, you know, Ben, again, these are the type of things that come out of my head. Ben has an uncle. What's he called? He's called Uncle Eric. Okay, right. Ben has a sister. What's she called? Cordelia. And that's how, like, that just came into my head, right? So as I was chatting then to Rosalind, because the book festival was coming up in reality in May, and she just happened to say, Cordelia will be in touch with you about such and such social media or whatever she said at the time. And I was like, who? She says, oh, my daughter, Cordelia. What? So, as you say, if this all fails or it all goes pear-shaped, Mystic Meg, watch out, because I'm coming after you.
And I can't wait to hear what is going to be for Together again.
Together for Christmas. I hope I haven't jinxed myself there now, because if I go to Ashford Castle and then there's someone called Declan or Cora working there, I'm going to freak out. But that's the way it has happened over the past 3 stories. And it's like, if somebody told me that, I would say, yeah, right. Yeah. But honestly, this is what has happened. And, I think, again, that's a sign that maybe I'm on the right path with these 100%. Stories.
Yeah. Like, it's in flashing neon lights there for you. You know, you can't miss that. It's so obvious.
No, it was just magnificent. So not only is it set in Ballyscullion, which is Ballyheeney House in the story. But yeah, the real life Cordelia does exist.
Again, just another little nod to the Balliscullion and to
And to
Balahi as well.
Balahi, yeah.
Wonderful. So on a personal note, Emma, what has the last year taught you?
I touched on it a wee bit, when I mentioned, things like going for your grocery shopping or going out for a wee bite to eat or going to, you mentioned the concerts, me and you have that in common. Like I love my rock concerts, I love my country shows, I love anything musical really, musical theatre, anything like that. When all that stops and it's not like maybe like COVID when everybody was doing it. So this was just my word. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't leave the house. I couldn't have visitors. I couldn't, spend time with my friends and my family and my wee nieces and nephews. They all had to be very careful coming into the house. And so I learned big time that, the things that you worry about in life or the things that you think that you need are really, you don't need them.
Yeah.
You don't need them. If you look around you, and there is that, saying their health is your wealth. And of course, people can say that and not even think about it. Your health is your wealth. If you don't have your health, you don't have anything. You could have all the money sitting in the bank. You could have a yacht in, the south of France. But if you don't have your health, you can't do any of that. So I learned that what the important things are in life. And for me, and I'm not speaking for everyone, but for me, it is the ability to do the right things every day that you take for granted. To be able to get up and leave my son to school, to be able to, pick him up after school and see his wee face coming out of the school and hear about his day, to be able to have the family round again for Sunday dinner, because my four older children are all young adults now. So, they've all got their own lives and they go and do their own things a lot of the time. To look forward to Christmas, to have family occasions, to have evenings like we had at Ballyscullion there a few nights ago. That's what makes me tick, and that's what getting up in the morning, I actually look forward to the day. Going to bed at night, I take a lot of medication. And I'm probably skirting over this. There are a lot of things day to day that I'm still struggling with and that I still deal with. And I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. Yeah. And I don't know what next week or next month is going to bring. Next week is actually my appointment week. So I have 3 weeks on medication and then a week off where I do get all my checks done and the bloods are all done. And then I get a phone call to tell me if it's okay.
Okay.
And there will be a month that it's not going to be okay. And that could be next month. Okay. That could be next week. Yeah. I don't know. So it is a seize the day. It is a one day at a time kind of attitude. But it's also an appreciation of the simple things and that the little things in life, like pushing a trolley around Tesco and doing your grocery shopping for your family, picking out things they like, picking out things you're going to make for dinner that evening or you're going to have for dinner. They're the things that are so important. And
those little things that make up that fabric of life.
Exactly. And the little things are the big things. Yeah. The big things aren't the big flashy cars, holidays, houses, and all the rest. It's the things that I suppose that we don't maybe stop. And again, that level of perception, as I talked about earlier, has even been turned up even more now because I am perceptive of people, and I have also learned of the kindness in this world. We're met every day with news of horror and bad news in the world, and it's very easy to get bogged down on everything. Oh, the world we live in is so frightening and it's so scary and it's so wrong. What I learned is that there are probably more good people in the world than there are bad people, and the kindness that I was shown during the really tough times will stay with me forever. And the people who showed up and the people who messaged me and who maybe dropped off something at the door for us or sent a wee prayer or sent, something, a blessing or, and I just clung on to those things and that's what got me through.
Yeah. It's a very humbling lesson and very profound insight as to what actually matters in life. So thank you very much for sharing that, Emma. And if I can ask just one final question, if you had any words of wisdom, Emma, for any aspiring or budding writer, from having the concept of an idea
Mm-hmm.
and then bringing it right up through until they see their work in print, what would those words be?
I suppose be brave enough to get started. I do live in my head a lot as a writer, and I have loads of ideas. But if I don't put those words on paper, they're only ever going to be ideas. And we can all have lots of ideas, but are you going to do anything about it? Everybody says, "Oh, there's a book in me," or "I could write it." Oh, many times I hear, "Oh, I could write a book. I have a story," but are you going to?
Yeah.
So put yourself out there, do it. Maybe you don't want to get published. Maybe you just want to write it for your family, or you might want to write it just for yourself to say, "Oh, I did that." But you're not going to have a book if you don't start. So chapter 1, start.
Yeah.
Your first draft is going to be horrible. It's going to be messy. It's going to be cringy. You're going to read it back and go, "Oh no," and you're going to probably edit the life out of it. But that's okay. It's like picking up a guitar and expecting to be able to play it the first time. Okay, so you're going to have to do a few rusty versions before you get to the finished piece. Another big tip is to set yourself deadlines, because again, it's like breadcrumbs, it's like teasers. I suppose I would also say, or always say, start small. Don't think of it as a book. Think of it as a page. Think of it as a chapter. So by next week, by next Friday, by Halloween, by Christmas, I'm going to have my first chapter written. Now, what am I going to do then to treat myself for doing that? So I'm going to give myself a wee pat in the back. I might go for a coffee with my friend that I haven't seen in ages, and that's going to be something to look forward to. Or I might go out for dinner with my husband or my wife or whatever. So whatever floats your boat, whatever gets you going. And it can be simple. I might have a glass of wine with me, by myself, in front of a movie. But set yourself small steps. And then as the small steps build, then start thinking a wee bit further down the line. So say by next year, I'm going to have it finished. And I'm going to mark the calendar on that date, and that's my aim, that's my goal. But you've got your baby steps along the way to get you to that. So deadlines and get started is a big one. I have a course, if I don't mind me saying. I recorded a course because I used to say, as I said, I used to coach a lot of writers. I used to do it in real life, but I also did it online. So it's all sitting there, it's all videoed.
Wow.
It's a 6-part from page to publication, and it takes you through everything from your ideas, how to get ideas. So how I get ideas, I share all my tips. I've shared a few of them there now, but so where I get my ideas from, how you can get ideas, then how to create characters, like your Uncle Eric's and your Aunt Nora's and all the rest. How I create characters, I share all my tips. There's nothing textbook about this, right? Okay, this is all tried and tested, and it's all from my own experience. 18 novels in. How to not lose the plot, so how to structure your plot.
I could do with a lesson on that in general.
I think everybody could, most of us could. So how to get the plot, how to get your pace right, and then there's one on dialogue and how to write emotion. And then there's a final one on how to get published, because a lot of people come to me and say, I've got a book, they've got the makings of a book, got the bones of a book, but I don't know what to do with it. So there's this whole section on that.
And where can you is that something that you sign up to, or?
So there is a website called writewithemma.com. But if you want the link to the if you decide now, look, I just want to do the course, send me a message on social media. I'm on Instagram and Facebook mainly, and I'll send you the direct link to and you can start today. And it's for life, so you don't have to. You're not going to be in a rush to do this. You can take your time. You can watch each lesson if you like. I don't like calling them lessons because I'm not a teacher, but each session, you can watch each session 10 times if you want, 20 times if you want. You can go back and watch it again, even if you're at the very end. You can start all over again. So it's yours for life. And
you can use that even to help with the editing process.
There's one on editing as well. Yes, thank you. Yes, I forgot about that one. Yeah, there's one entirely on how to edit your own work.
Send you a wee message.
It's very accessible. It's not expensive, and it's yours for life. And it was recorded a few years ago, so I don't look like this, but it's still me, and it's still all my tips and hints and advice. And I use a lot of real life examples, like the time I sent the Legacy of Lucy Hart off thinking it was ready to go, and then I got the notes back. So I use a lot of examples of how I brought those books to life. So I believe in it. Like say, I used to do this over 6 weeks for councils and other organisations, and then it was recorded, so anybody can get it.
So to have that guidance from someone so successful and someone who is so gifted and talented is, that's a wonderful resource. So all budding authors and writers, you've heard it here. So Emma, thank you so much for sitting down with us today. I could sit and talk to you for hours, honestly. We could go in so many different directions, but it has been for me a wonderful conversation. I am loving every Christmas Eve. And if people have not bought this, you need to go and get it. You need to rush out and get it because it will certainly set you up for the festive period. So
thank you so much, Sheila. Can I just say before we finish up, there are a few versions of this book out there.
Oh.
So you have the original paperback, then we have a special green spread edges version, which is available in Jim McKee Art Gallery in Donaghmore, which is my home village. You can also order that online at eason.com. Then we've got the lovely pink spread edges version, which is in Asda, and that's in aid of the Tickle Pink Breast Cancer campaign. And in that version, there's a bonus at the end where I reference a lot of the places that are in this novel, but also in previous novels, if people want to go and find them for themselves. So there's 3 versions, and then you've got the ebook and the audio version. Because I know a lot of people like audiobooks, and a lot of people are Kindle readers. And that's, of course, on Amazon. But support your local bookshops. It's also in Sheehy's in Cookstown as well, and other places like Waterstones if you're in the city.
Fantastic. So no matter what way people like to enjoy literature, there's a mode of the book there for them. Okay, fantastic.
Thanks a million, Sheila. I really enjoyed that too. Thank you.
It's a mutual enjoyment fest today, Emma. Okay. And that's it for today.